let us do some algebra, because that's where my mind is ready for. Algebra, right. Example 1. Remember grade 8? We've got 3 steps we need to follow when we simplify any algebraic expression. So to simplify, we identify our terms. Once we have identified our terms, our second thing that we do is we simplify each term. And once we've done that, we go and add or subtract our like terms. So if we can do these 3 things, we can simplify any expression. So I'm going to start you off here, but then I'm going to get you to try this by yourself. In terms of starting you off, I want to do the first step with you. And we want to identify our terms. Now remember, terms are separated by plus and minus signs, and we don't look at plus and minus signs inside brackets. So I ignore that minus sign, and I consider only the fact that I've got a minus sign there. So what that means is that this expression has got 2 terms to it, term 1 and term 2. What we now want to do is we want to simplify each of those terms. Generally, simplifying a term entails or means that we are going to times, divide, or deal with any exponents that we may have. So simplifying terms involves multiplication, division, and exponents. So I want you guys to try this. I want an answer on the chat once you've got one, and then we'll see how we've done. Right, so I've given you a hint. I've told you what your next step needs to be. You now need to simplify each of your terms. Let's see what we get. Remember that when you're multiplying positives and negatives, excuse me, think about what sign you're going to end up with. Keep your answers coming through, guys. You're doing really nicely. I'll give you another minute. Wait, to double check. I think I agree with your first answer. Right, grade 8, who would like to raise their hand to explain this one to us? And remember, we want you to explain the whole thing. Okay, boy 2, let's hear.
Ma'am, first you have to times 6 by what's in the brackets.
Good.
So 6 times xy equals 6xy. And 6 times negative 2y to the power of 2 equals negative 12y to the power of 2 in brackets. Good. Then 3 times x times y equals 3xy. minus 3xy.
Good.
Then you group the numbers together, the like terms. 6xy minus times a minus is a plus. So
Why are you saying minus times minus?
because there's a minus behind the 3. Oh, sorry, it's 6xy minus 3xy
Good.
equals 3xy.
And the negative 12y squared.
And then it's 3xy minus negative 12xy. That's the final answer.
Good. Excellent. So guys, very importantly, like Goita said, you group or you identify your like terms. So the xy terms are like terms. And then completely separately, you've got your negative 12y squared. So your y squared terms. 6xy minus 3xy gives us 3xy. Remember, when you add and subtract like terms, the exponents don't change. So if it was xy, once you've added or subtracted, it is still xy. Completely separately, we still have that minus 12y squared because it didn't have any like terms to go with it. If you wrote your answer in the reverse order, so if you wrote this as minus 12y squared plus 3xy, that's absolutely fine as well. You've got the correct terms with the correct signs. The order is different, but it means the same thing. So no problems at all. Right, take your screenshots. If anyone has any questions, now is the time to raise your hand to ask. So any questions, you can raise your hand. Otherwise, you're going to have a look at another one. Okay, nice, guys. Right, so question B. Again, I'm going to help you a little bit to start off with, and then you're going to try by yourself. So question B again, we want to identify our terms as our first step. Remember, we only consider plus or minus signs outside of the bracket, so we've only got one, which means that in this expression, we have got two terms. Now we want to simplify each term. Now, there's nothing I can do with term 1. It's 7a squared. That is what it is. However, if you look at term 2, you've got minus 2 times the bracket squared. Now, remember, this squared is telling me how many times I'm multiplying this bracket. So I'm essentially saying minus 3a times minus 3a. You are welcome to distribute the exponent like we've learned. So you would distribute the exponent to both of the exponents of 3 and a. But just remember what happens when you square a negative. So when we square a negative, we're saying a negative times a negative. So just bear in mind what that means. Okay, so I want you to try it. I want a final simplified answer on the chat, and then we'll have a look in, let's say, 2 minutes. Those of you forgetting your like terms in the chat, please remember to do them. Okay, super, super important. That is the crux of simplifying fully at the end of the day. Okay, I see 3 answers so far. Keep them coming. Remember, guys, in your second term, you need to simplify it first, and then you can add and subtract your like terms. Oh, so sorry. You can ignore the number line that I'm drawing here at the bottom. It's just to help us later on. Alrighty, guys, so let's have a look. So I'm going to do this one myself, just so we're very clear on what's happening with the exponents. So remember, like we say, 7a squared isn't going to do anything just yet, but that bracket squared means we are multiplying the negative 3a twice. Yes, you are welcome to distribute if you want. I'm making a choice to write it out as two brackets so that I remember that negative times a negative is a positive. I'm going to leave the coefficient of -2 there for now. I'm first going to deal with multiplying these brackets together. So negative times a negative is a positive. 3 times 3 is 9. And a times a is a squared. So I've multiplied my two brackets to get 9a squared. Now I need to multiply the -2 or distribute the -2 in. So the 7a squared stays that. Negative times a positive is a negative. 2 times 9, 18, a squared. Now, both of these are like terms, right? So that means that everything is going to be added or subtracted in this case. This is why I had my number line. Here I am at 7a squared. I want to subtract 18. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. I end up at -11. Now, grade 8s, obviously, you're welcome to just use a calculator, but if you're not allowed a calculator, remember to draw your number line. And so what we end up with is -11a squared. So a couple of you were sitting at 12 or -12. Just be careful. Make sure you've added or subtracted correctly. Because your final answer here is -11a squared. Okay, so take your screenshots. Anyone with questions, please raise your hand. Otherwise, we're going to have a look at another. Alrighty. Hope we've all got our screenshots. So I want you to try C by yourselves. Identify your terms, simplify each term, and then add and subtract your like terms. Right? It's really important that we are able to do this. So give it a try, put your answers in the chat, and let's see what we end up with. Remember, your terms are separated by the plus and minus signs outside of a bracket. So if we're struggling, I'll help you there a little bit. Here's a minus, here's a plus. So there's term 1. Here's term 2. Oops. Here is term 3. So simplify those terms. And then you can add and subtract your like terms. Okay, guys, remember you need to try. Do it on your book or your piece of paper. You can correct it if you go wrong. You can tick it if you go right, but you need to try it. Only got 3 answers so far. I'm going to wait for a couple more and then we'll have a look. I'm going to give you another minute, then we'll have a look. We've got a wide variety of answers going on here, so make sure you're ready to do corrections where necessary. Guys, remember we support each other. Mistakes are part of learning. Okay, let's have a look. So in your first term, you might have noticed that the negative 7a and the 4a are actually like terms. So if you wanted to, you could subtract them to get negative 3a and then times by the 2. I'm going to not do that. You get the same answer either way. It really doesn't matter how you choose to do it. I'm going to distribute. So when I distribute in my 2, I get 8a minus 4. Let's try that again. 8a minus 14a. My second term, I couldn't do anything with, so it's just minus 4a. But my third term, I need to multiply. 3 times 3 is 9. And then I've got my a. So I've got plus 9a. Again, hopefully what we're seeing is that all of these are like terms, which means I can just go and add and subtract them. So if we go back down to our number line, here we are at 8a. We want to subtract 14. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So I'm at negative 6. Then I want to subtract another 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm now at negative 10. But now all of a sudden I want to add 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I headed back up my number line. And this is where I stop at negative 1. So my answer here is negative 1a, or if you just wrote negative a, absolutely fine, no problem. Both are acceptable. Okay, Lubanzi. Silly mistake, but they do happen. And guys, honestly, most of the time in algebra, where we go wrong is we make silly mistakes, especially with signs. So be very careful of that and make sure that you are, in fact, simplifying your terms fully. Right, so screenshots. If you've got questions, raise your hand. We're going to do one more, and you guys have done really nicely, so we'll do a brain break today. So screenshots, raise your hand if you've got questions. Otherwise, you're going to try one more before a break. Alrighty. I just want to see what examples I have going on here. Right. So I want you to try for me question A. Actually, I don't want you to try it yet. Sorry, I've changed my mind. Let's do brain break first, and then we'll come to question A. So brain break today. There we go. We've got 2 because they are quite easy. So I want to know what the word is in the final sort of section. I will highlight it for you. So I want to know what the word is over here, as well as in the second question. Once you have solved for all of the unknowns, what word do you end up with? I'm just going to do that. You can still see the joke, hopefully. You can see the puzzle. Let's see what we get. I don't even know what we get.
Let's go, my people. Let's go. What was the equal sign so humble? It wasn't this kind of greeted by anyone else. Oh, God. Shumi, no problem. Dive in to what we are doing. We are on our brain break, guys. You're allowed to stretch. You're allowed to go to the loo. You do what you gotta do, but please do participate in our brain break. And the joke is just something else. Why was the equal sign so humble? He knew he wasn't less than or greater than anyone else. Guys. Likely we don't have those kind of people, right? Imagine you're an equal sign. That will be a little bit disturbing.
Yo, guys, you're so quick tonight. I'm like not even anywhere
Oh,
near.
no ways. Did they get number 2 and number 1 already?
Yeah.
Did they get it right? Guys,
Yo,
well done.
guys, I'm just going to go with you here. I believe that this is right.
Well done, guys.
Yep. Okay, so let's see who got it first.
Done.
Right. Okay, so Omfa, you got the second one first. Teto, you got the first one first. So if you two want to raise your hands to explain each of those. So Omfa, question 2, Teto, question 1. Oh. Okay, Teto, I'm going to start with you just because you had question 1 first. Omfa, you'll do question 2. So Teto, the first one.
Hello, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so ma'am, this is the first one. I started off with the caterpillar because it was the first thing I saw. So I said 12 minus 7. So I ended up with the caterpillar being 5.
Good.
Then because I didn't want to have to work with the bigger numbers first, I went down to 7 plus something equals 19. So I said 19 minus 7. So I ended up with the snail being 12.
Good.
Then for the crickets or locust, it's one of the two. I said 13. Yeah. I said 13 minus 5. So I ended up with the cricket being 8.
Perfect. So your word in the end?
Pot.
Excellent. Okay, so guys, that's how we do these ones. Figure out what the number is. On the side, it tells you which letter it corresponds to, and we got the word. So, yep, exactly. Tetel said there, number 1 is pot. Right, Omford, question 2 here.
Hello, ma'am.
There we go.
Yes. Ma'am, I said see for the cloud which is snowing. I said 10 minus 6, which is 4.
Good.
Which
And
is
then?
F.
Yeah, good.
Then I said 4 divided by 44 for the sun, which gave me 11.
Good. Which is which letter?
L.
Good.
Then I said 11 divided by 77, which is 7.
Excellent. Which is which letter?
W.
Good. So what's the word in the end?
Flew.
Good, guys. So we had, what did we have? We had pot, we had flow for 1 and 2. Easy peasy. Right, and I really like that you guys are already starting to think about using those inverse operations in order to solve. When we do equations next term, that's going to be really important to remember to use the inverse operations. So well done on starting to think about that. Those of you who hadn't put your hands up but did do it, well done. Very, very nice. Alrighty, guys. So we're going to go back up to that one that I said do and then don't do, and then I couldn't make up my mind. There we go. You're going to try it, but there's just one thing I want to point out to start off with. So firstly, we're going to identify our terms, nice and easy. We've got the plus sign there. So we've got this whole negative times the bracket times 2, and then 2p as our second term. Now, guys, what I want you to notice in this first term is that you've got a negative 1 times the bracket, and you've got a 2 times the bracket. So essentially what you have here is 2 coefficients to the bracket. Now, what we need to remember is that whether you say 3 times 2 times 1, or 1 times 2 times 3, or 3 times 2 times 1, or 1 times 3 times 2, and I can keep going. It doesn't matter what order you multiply those numbers. They all always give us the same answer of 6. So what's really important is that order of multiplication doesn't matter. You can multiply things in any order you want. And so whenever we have a situation where we have got 2 coefficients, what we do is we multiply the 2 coefficients together, and then that is what we distribute into the bracket. Because otherwise, what's going to happen, let's focus please. Otherwise, what's going to happen is that you're going to have to do a double distribution of the negative 1 and then the 2. And that just becomes a lot of work unnecessarily. So when we have 2 coefficients, we times them together. Your 2 coefficients. We times them together, and then we distribute that product. All right, so if we times the negative 1 and the 2, we end up with negative 2. And that is what I'm then going to distribute into this bracket in order to simplify my first term. Right, so I've given you a little hint there. Give it a try. Guys, remember, you shouldn't just have things disappearing. So what I mean by that is, if you start off with M and P as different terms in like your expression, you probably should end up with terms with m and p at the end unless they cancel out. But just bear in mind, 90% of the time, you should still have variables and the same variables that what you started with in your final answer. Right, but let's try. I've given you a hint. Let's see what we end up with. Nice, grade 8. Right, who wants to raise their hand to explain this one for us? All right, Wandle, I feel like we haven't heard from you in a while. Do you want to explain it for us?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Hello,
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. So I followed your hints.
Mm-hmm.
So your hints gave me -2. So then I said -2 times 3p gave me -6p. And then I saw that at the end there was the last term 6p, which was a like term to -6p. So I just ignored it for now. And then I attributed to 4m. I said -2 multiplied by 4m gave me -8m. So then
What's a negative times a negative?
positive.
Okay, so positive 8m.
Oh yeah. So then I saw that these are like 6p and -6p are like terms. I grouped them together and then I put 8m in the middle. So I said -6 plus 6p, it gave me 0.
Good.
With which then I was left with 8m, which was my final answer.
Excellent. So guys, very importantly, like Lwandle's just said, -6p plus 6p is 0. They cancel each other out. If you had -3 plus 3, you would have 0. 3 minus 3, 0. Whenever you add like the reciprocal or the opposite sign to negative plus it's positive, you end up with 0. So the p terms in this case cancelled out and you were only left with that positive 8m, as Lwandle said. Your Omfa squared, can we focus? I'm glad we are having this beautiful connection in the chat, but let's focus. Come. Righto, guys. So take your screenshots. Teto, your hand is still up. I'm not sure if that means you have a question. Otherwise, you can lower it. There we go. If you guys do have questions, you can raise your hand here while everyone's taking screenshots. Otherwise, we're going to move on to another one.
Guys, forever hold your breath. If you don't have a question, we are moving on. Did you take your screenshots? Hopefully you're okay. And yeah, guys, let's focus. We are nearly there.
Right, grade 8. I'm not saying anything. I want you to try B. Answers in the chat. Give it a go. Please take. No, I'm not saying anything. I always say I'm not saying anything. And then I say, oh, okay, reminder. No. Try. Told one of my grade 11s to try it today. I was giving them a question. So I said, okay, cool, try it. And she looked at me and she's like, what does that mean? I was like, what do you mean? What does that mean? I'm saying try it. She's like, what is a triad? I was like, no, sweet child, not a triad, a triad. She was like, oh, I thought that was some special maths thing. I was like, sweet, no. Try it.
What? Just try with your mind.
When she initially said, what does that mean? I was like, what? What do you mean? What does try it mean? And then I was like, okay, so we're just not hearing each other. Okay, guys, hopefully you can now see the question. I did stop sharing and reshared my screen, so hopefully we can see it now. Give you another like 30 seconds. Okay, who wants to raise their hand to explain this one for us? Oh, Bonolo, tell us.
Hi, ma'am.
Hi, how are you?
I'm getting you, ma'am.
I'm okay, thank you. Let's hear it.
Okay, so ma'am, firstly, I said -2 times -2, which gave me +4.
Good.
So you're gonna write +4a.
Just a or a squared?
A.
Okay.
So then, ma'am, I wrote +3a times a.
Mm-hmm.
So, ma'am, 3a times a is gonna give us 3a.
Okay.
So, ma'am, I wrote 4a plus 3a. So when you add it all together, ma'am, it's gonna give us 7a because they're like terms.
Okay, good. So guys, we're nearly there here. So Bonolo, very nicely done. What I want you to just take note of is the squared over here. This means that we are multiplying -2a by -2a, and then we've got our plus 3a times a. So remember, you've got two terms here, and English, we now need to multiply. So exactly like Bonolo said, -2 times -2 gives us +4. But then we need to remember to multiply the a. So a times a is a squared. This is going to be the same in our second term. The 3 times the 1 is 3, but then a times a is a squared. So what we actually have here is 4a squared plus 3a squared, and our final answer would be 7a squared. So your thinking is very much on the right track, Ronaldo. So very nicely done. Just remember, a times a is a squared. Okay, so guys, I've just done like the edits, corrections there on in green, but your answer, your final answer there needs to be 7a squared. Right, screenshots. And let's have a look at C. Right. Yeah, try it. Let's see what you come up with. So give C a try. Only thing I am going to say is that this whole bracket, -2x, is being raised to the power 3. That means you've got -2x times -2x times -2x. Think about what that means. Right, so I want to see some answers. We'll see in the chat once you've got some. Boita, you are very, very close. I want you to double check your simplification on the first term. I will give you one hint. You should have 2 terms in your answer. 2 terms in your answer. I'm going to give you 30 seconds and then we're going to have a look. Okay, who would like to explain this one? Hands up. Right, Zimmy, let's hear it.
Afternoon, ma'am.
Hi.
I would like to explain number C.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, so since it's 6x squared, 6x cubed y over 3x squared y. So you're gonna say how many times does 3 go into 6, which is 2 times. And then how many, so then you're gonna take your exponents and minus them since it's division. So it's gonna say 3
Good.
minus 2, which will give you x.
Good.
And then your y's cancel out each other.
Good.
And then distribute the negative sign into the bracket, which will give you a positive. And then you take that 2 times it 3 times, which is going to be 2 times 2 times 2, which will give you 8x.
Okay.
Cubed, sorry.
8x cubed. Perfect. Okay. So guys, I just want to explain what Zimmy was talking about there with that distribution, because that's very important and I didn't mention it earlier. So please remember that whenever we do maths, and this should just be part of who you are as a mathematician, you need to be applying bodmas. Okay, so this is why I say to you, yes, you've got brackets, but the E or the O, that's the exponent. So this is the exponent part that you need to deal with. Now, once you have multiplied all of those, 3 negatives being multiplied, negative times negative times negative gives you a negative. 2 times 2 times 2 gives us 8, as Zimmy said. And then the x times x times x gives us that x cubed. Now, this is where Zimmy was talking about that distribution, because technically what you have now is minus negative 8x cubed. And because you've now dealt with the exponent outside, you can now do that distribution. So now we can take that -1 and distribute it in, and we are getting that positive 8x cubed that Zimmy spoke about. So this one was tricky because you needed to take careful note of your signs here. And so please remember that once you have dealt with your exponent, so if we just go here, so if we've cubed it, 3 negatives means a negative, but then as Zimmy said, we still have that negative coefficient that we need to multiply in. And a negative times a negative is a positive. Very nicely explained, Zimmy, well done. And very well done on that fraction simplification. Okay, so guys, positive 8x cubed. So screenshots, otherwise hands up if you've got any questions. I want to say we've got time for 2 more, but let's do 1 more and we'll see where we're at. Okay, so any questions, hands up before I move on. Otherwise you're screenshotting and you're getting yourself excited for the next one. Hello. Oh, okay, fun. Right. I think this will be our last one because this is a fun one. Try it. See how far you get. I'm not going to say anything, not going to do anything. All I'm going to say is start by identifying your terms. That will make your life easy. So try. Let's see what we come up with. I'll give you, let's say 4 minutes, 5 minutes, and then we'll see what we get and how far we are, because you still need to get your quiz link for today. So like I said, guys, start with identifying your terms. That will make it easier for you. Yo, Tito, that was incredibly quick. I don't even know if that's the right answer. That's how quick that was. Was a cliffhanger me saying I don't know if that's the right answer. I get something different. I'd like to think my maths is relatively okay. I think what you need to double check is some of your signs. Two more minutes, guys. Let's see what we get. I'm really proud of you guys for trying this. Well done. Keep those answers coming. Nice, grade 8s. Keep the answers coming through. You're doing really nicely. And some of you are so close. Some of you are getting it right. Some of you are close. So remember, be ready to do corrections when I go through it. Sammy's just had a revelation. Oh, sorry. Apparently I'm just highlighting things. I'm uncontrollable. Right, guys, let's have a look. Last 5 minutes to end off. We're going to sort this one out. So terms, there's a minus sign. There's a plus sign. So this is, I can't draw a line. This is term 1, term 2, term 3. So I need to go and simplify each of these terms so that I can eventually simplify this expression. Go away. Alrighty, so in term 1, you are just multiplying there. So you've got -2 times x times y squared. So that is just -2xy squared. Nothing too fancy going on there. In term 2, there's also nothing too fancy. If we first deal with the bracket, -4 times xy squared is -4xy squared. And then we still have that negative coefficient. So a negative times a negative is a positive 4xy squared. And then term 3. Now term 3 is the harder one. we've got a division. Now, some of you might be comfortable with the situation and you can just do it. I personally prefer to write any division sign as a fraction. It just helps me visualize what I'm actually working with better, but you don't have to, because now what I see is that, let me just write everything down. Now what I see is that I can simplify this. Remember SNV. So signs, positive divided by positive, positive. Numbers, 10 divided by 2 is 5. And if we go and have a look at our variables now, if we go and look at the x's, remember we were told earlier that we subtract exponents when we divide. So x cubed, or x to the power 3 minus 2, simplifies to x to the power 1, or just x. The y has no y at the denominator, so it doesn't do anything. It just stays y squared. Now, all of these are like terms because they all have xy squared. So negative 2xy squared plus 4xy squared, tongue twister here, is 2xy squared, plus 5xy squared is 7xy squared. And we've simplified our expression. Teto, I'm glad we saw. I think it was a sign thing, if I'm not mistaken. So guys, the harder or the trickier of the terms to simplify, in my opinion, you can disagree, was definitely this third term, because you had to deal with that division properly in order to end up with your 3 like terms that we had going on here. And I don't like that I've done that in the same color. Anyways, right, and once you knew what your like terms were, add, subtract, sorted.